It's been over 2 years of teasing, and Zeapon has finally released their pan and tilt motor for their slider system. The question is, do they live up to the hype, and is it good for your video work? Let's find out. Hey everybody, Too Long Didn't Read Filmmaker here, where the answers comes first, the reasons come last, but we're constantly and always still learning. I want to thank Zeapon for sending this out to me so I can provide you with my review today. There's no TLDR, it's a short video, and this is everything you need to know about the PONS PT motor. The pan and tilt motor combo comes in at approximately $500 in addition to whichever Zeapon slider you go with. It's extremely easy to set up, super quick. Once you get your phone connected to the system, you're ready to begin setting up your waypoints for either time lapses or video. As you can see, the results are quite smooth with all three motors linked together. Now, if you're going to try to set up 3 waypoints, it will actually pause for a second on the second waypoint, but I think this is simply just an update in terms of its firmware. For time lapsers, they do have this additional trigger accessory for about $70. It's not required, so don't worry about that. Basically, it syncs up your smart app with the camera in hand so that you're getting very accurate time lapses. Now for videographers, specifically with Sony cameras, you can actually use this trigger to basically tell the camera to start recording and also starting the motion slide at exactly the same time. This is extremely useful, especially if you have the slider super high up where you can't reach it. So what's the bottom line here? Now that we finally have the pan and tilt motor, does the Zeapon beat out the competition? Well, let's take a look at price real quick, because when it comes to pricing, it's significantly cheaper than the competition out there. Most of the things I'm seeing start maybe around $1,700 and go all the way to $4,000. Whereas Zeapon, at its base price point of a 21-inch slider, it's about $1,000 some. So it's much cheaper. And you have the option to buy even up to a 3-foot slider, 3 feet, sorry, even up to a 3 feet slider, and you would still be under $1,400. So when it comes to an entire set, price point wise, it's definitely beating out everyone else in that market. Now, there is a difference in terms of the motor technology. It's using more or less a servo motor versus a brushless motor, which some of the more expensive ones use. Now, what are the pros and cons of each? When it comes to the brushless motor, that's why they're so expensive, because they're basically gimbal motors, which means you actually can just physically move the carriage, physically move the pan and tilt, hit a waypoint button, and you're good, and you can move to the next waypoint. It's super fast to set up. Whereas with the Zeapon servo motor, you actually have to press a button or tell it to slide to a certain point, get all your waypoints ready, and then actually lock it in. You might think the brushless motor is better. Not necessarily. Because it's very much like a gimbal motor in terms of the gimbal has to calculate if sudden shifts of center of gravity comes into play. Sometimes you might get into a finicky situation where it's not as smooth and you can't just zoom a lens, let the barrel go out, and then be good. You have to recalibrate certain things just so the motor doesn't freak out like a gimbal. Whereas a servo motor, it doesn't have those calculations. It just knows it has to pull from point A to point B, and it doesn't care. That motor is just going to keep going. You can add more weight all of a sudden, and the computer is like, I don't need that information. It's just going to keep going. So when it comes to getting consistent, smooth shots when you're changing focal lengths or whatever it is you're doing on the fly, you don't have to worry as much about servo motors. So in my opinion, that's technically better for just anybody in terms of filmmaking. You don't want to be held back and have to recalibrate your brushless motors. Now, there is room for improvement, and the good thing is that most of these improvements can be done through software. It's not like there's a design mechanical problem that they can't fix. So basically, it's what I said before. I would love to see the ability for you to transition from waypoint to waypoint to waypoint to waypoint much smoother and not have that slight pause before it moves to the next shot. And of course, if you want that pause, maybe they can give us hey, give us a 1-second delay per waypoint because we want to stay here for a little bit and keep going. Maybe they might even be able to have a button or something like that on the app that it would stop at a waypoint, and then you tap it to go again, and it would move to the next waypoint, stop, tap again, move to the next waypoint. There is a bunch of things they can do with software, and I think these will definitely be great tools for various filmmakers. Which leads me to my final bit, is what type of filmmaker should be looking at a motion-controlled 3-axis slider? Pretty much, if you do product B-roll shots or product video shots, having this motion control 3-axis is great. I've had a blast using it and getting all these various shots from my previous videos this past month. And it's great. It's smooth, it's repeatable, it's easy, and yeah, I can't say anything bad about it when it comes to product video. But let's talk about narrative filmmaking, documentary, weddings, events, what have you. The main question is this: do you have time to actually set this up? In my opinion, there are certain shots that I could use this for narrative films, but they're usually just establishing shots, trying to get the scene in, get that nice smooth look, and then we're good to go. It's not going to be something I'm going to be using for nearly every shot. It's a specialized tool in my opinion, because after I get that motion controlled shot, for the rest of the stuff, it might actually have to be on a traditional manual slider Dana Dolly system, because I might need that slide to move a lot faster. Versus this, it's a consistent movement, and it's going to take about, I think, 15 seconds to move from one side to the other for a 21-inch slider. And if you have the 3 feet slider, I think that took almost 25 seconds to 30 seconds just to make it all the way across, depending on what kind of move you're doing. So basically, setup. Do you have time? And hey, that is it for this video, everybody. I do have some purchase links down below if this product interests you. And should you use it, it does help directly support the channel and allows me to have more time to test and review all these products for you. And as always, if you have any questions or comments, go ahead and leave it down below. I will get to them as fast as I can. And until then, like, subscribe, and share, and I'll see you guys in the next one.